One of the things I love most about making these videos is that I get to bring discoveries to you all that change the way that you look at the game. And today I feel like is going to be one of those days. Because after we've finished with this video, you will never look at Leyndell the same way again. That is because Leyndell is hiding a massive secret in plain sight. The whole city is one eternal pride parade, or your typical PC gamer setup, while from a distance its ghostly pale exterior and dazzling contrasted gold of the rooftops and adornments would have you thinking it is a white and gold capital. When we look a little closer, we notice something behind the faded facade. Rainbows, a spectrum of color. We see red, blue, green, and orange, and it isn't just in one place or another, it is everywhere in the upper city. There are particular rooms, usually inside and unaffected by whatever caused the outside to be faded. When the contrast between the colorful brickwork constructing the city and the grayscale pillars make their presence undeniable. And even a quick glance outside reveals more and more of this rainbow. If I change the contrast on the shaders, it becomes even more obvious, and we can begin to see this image of Leyndell in its former glory. But that is not nearly enough. I wanted desperately to see what it may have looked like closer to its prime. I spent a lot of time trying to find ways to restore Leyndell to its former glory, and ultimately I have 3 versions of restored Leyndell that I would like to present to you. First, I used the shaders to enhance what was already there. Then I extracted and enhanced the game's textures, and finally I restored the city based on the material I believe that it was made from originally, brick by brick. And I'm extremely happy with the results. First up, Leyndell with the shaders enhanced, simply to enhance what is already there, no matter how faded by time it may be. Even though this cannot restore what was lost or undo tarnishing, it can help to prove what hides just beneath the surface for the skeptics among us. Next, I extracted textures from Leyndell from the game files and edited them by enhancing the colors. This allows for a more unfiltered and in-depth restoration of the vibrancy of the original stones used, and we'll revisit those soon. But it wasn't as precise as I wanted it to be, and some of the colors seemed oversaturated, but it was still beautiful. Lastly, the lore-accurate reconstruction from the thumbnail, which I'll reveal and show off in all of its beauty after we explore the lore to understand the materials I used and why, as well as why something as colourful as a rainbow city could be mistaken for one of white marble colour, though everything is chaptered for your convenience should you wish to skip ahead. And there is historical precedence for this, given the history of the white marble Roman and Greek statues, which historically have been viewed as purposefully white and bare. And this influenced later art forms when the appreciation for Greek and Roman art was reignited during the Renaissance by Michelangelo and other artists who studied pieces of art such as Laocoon and his sons. However, this is actually based on a lie, sort of, or a misunderstanding of the original state of the art piece that the new form was inspired by. This white marble appearance that later artworks were based on is in fact not the original state of these artworks. Originally they were adorned in an array of colour, which has been faded over time to the pale state we see them in today, like the aforementioned Laocoon and his sons, or for instance these statues of Emperor Augustus that would have originally looked like this. And I believe this is what we see in Leyndell. Either an event such as being covered in ash from the burning of a tree or eclipse has tarnished the faded buildings, or it has just been that long, or perhaps the sun-like rays of the Erd tree bleached the city. Regardless, the rainbow hues of the capital city have long since faded, and only the truth of its rainbow visage remains for those who take a close enough look. So why is Leyndell made of rainbows? Does this have any lore relevance? My answer? Of course it does. After all, we have seen these colours elsewhere before. For example, this gentleman of outstanding character, who refers to himself as a nomad, uses a very familiar array of colours to guide us to treasures untold. And if we have a look at the item he is using, we will find they are called rainbow stones. These stones when thrown give off a glow and a particle effect with every respective colour of the rainbow. Red and yellow and pink and green, orange and purple and blue. And on occasion, white, which contains every colour in its particle effect. When we examine the colours they have chosen to display on this item's picture, we notice they are comprised of a very similar spectrum of colours to the colours we see in the rainbow walls of Leyndell. In fact, it is exact. Ruin fragment that has undergone some simple processing. Stones such as these shine with the colours of the rainbow, making them useful markers when placed on the ground. They can also be dropped to gauge the distance of a fall. The higher the pitch of the sound, the higher the likelihood of the fall being fatal, once used to entertain children on the fringes of the lands between. The information we are given is that these rainbow stones are pieces of ruin that give off multicoloured light after having undergone processing, and are objects that once entertain the children of the fringes of the lands between. Rainbow stones are made from fragments of Farum Azula, as per the description of the ruin fragment which is used to make it, which is imbued with light. I imagine this is potentially the illuminated ruin fragment that undergoes processing in order to change the colour of its light. In my previous video, I briefly explored the relationship between holes and souls, and why sprites or spirits take rest in Rao burrows, or the soul of a sorcerer in a primal glintstone central Rao burrow-like hole, which is a topic I tend to fully unpack in my future Wisdom of Stone video. And in that explanation, I discussed how the Spira incantation, a pillar of light, is described as normalized crucible current and what that means, as well as runes or souls being interchangeable with light, such as when enemies with this light in their eyes give us more runes, or skulls with light in them drop runes, or souls. The point of that little rabbit hole is that if my theory is correct about souls, spirits, and light, and if you remain unconvinced, I would highly recommend watching Nameless Singer's newest video on stars, light, and souls, then the fact the rainbow stones feature is primarily the manipulation of light that they glow with, and the fact that this does indeed act like light down to the white rocks displaying elements of all of the colours, then I am immediately reminded of another spirit tuning or light processing people whose village is entirely adorned in both light and rainbows. The people of Marika, the god who guides with light of grace. The spirit tuning Shaman, a village whose homage in the lands between in Jarberg, inhabited by a shaman as well, is located on the fringes by the converted fringe tower, also enwreathed in rainbows and flowers that represent light. Marika herself makes reference to the fringes as per Melena's words, and I cannot help but think she is referring to herself, a helpless upstart of the fringes. Is it so surprising then that the royal capital of the age she ruled over would be a city of rainbows, like that of her home village? What is a surprise are those buried deep beneath the city, the very people who we get the recipe for these stones from, who clad themselves in an array of colour, most notably a rainbow, and whose great caravan and culture was destroyed after the spread of a foul rumour by the dreaded Shabriri. And so the fact there are so many abandoned and broken down caravans leading to and passing through the city of Leyndell, where the nomadic denizens of a great caravan who sell the recipe for the rainbow stone are imprisoned beneath, is quite a steep and tantalizing rabbit hole. But the tragedy and downfall of their caravan, and the knights banished to the fringes, and the fringe folk hero are a story for another video. At the end of the trail, the most fitting thing to me in all of this is the ruins of the building blocks of Farum Azula, the old capital where the last Elden ring was housed, which emits the light, were processed to use and lay the foundations of the new royal capital that housed the new Elden ring and is drowning in its motifs. Seems outrageously appropriate. If my thoughts on this are true, I wonder what the rainbow capital of Leyndell would have looked like before it was faded, with its foundations being constructed of rainbow stones. So I did it, literally brick by brick. I superimposed the individual colours of the 4 main rainbow stones reflected on the item image and within the walls of the buildings of Leyndell over the original texture of these bricks. And as you can see from these progression shots, the comparison between the original texture and these mini bricks I made from the rainbow stone textures is unbelievably similar. Satisfyingly so. It gave me even more confidence in the end result, and it did not disappoint. I present to you the rainbow capital of the Queen of Grace or Guiding Light. There is another city tied to Marika, who is a shaman rumored to be of the same stock as Newman, such as the Black Knives, who are scions of the Eternal Cities. A place where her own son is buried, connected to the deepest roots of the Great Tree which connected to the Erd Tree. Buried far beneath the Rainbow City is one of the 3 Eternal Cities, the Nameless Eternal City, and just like Leyndell, the Eternal Cities have a secret. As what we normally see with these cities, tones of grey, silver and blue, are actually hiding the full palette of colours. In this case not faded, but instead shrouded by the darkness of the underground. The Nameless Eternal City, however, is not veiled by such darkness, and the light reveals the city is not only comprised of silver and blue tones, but, if in the light of day, would shine with bronze, gold and green, oxidized copper or verdigris as well. These ancient cities whose motifs mirror those adorning the mausoleums that hold Marika's unwanted children hide more secrets than we can know, and I intend fully to unravel them in future videos. But for now, in line with the theme of this video, I am content with demonstrating the resplendence of these faded and shaded masterpieces, and the drip adorning their most ancient of occupants. I do have one last thing I wanted to show you in this video that will only be available for the next 2 days. So if you're seeing this video and it abruptly ends, I'm sorry, but don't worry, you'll be able to see it soon enough. But before that, a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. The more of you there are, the closer I get to achieving my dream of making this absolute privilege my full-time occupation. Thank you again for the support. I truly cherish and appreciate it.